AEW Dynamite was live from Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this is the go-home show for AEW's first pay-per-view since joining TNT, and that's going to be Full Gear, which takes place this Saturday, 8 o'clock. So, for the show, they're hyping up the matches. You start this show off with Pac against Trent. And you have your pyro, of course, where the show starts. Pac got a good opening reaction. He faces Trent. You know, it was fine. It was a good matchup here. I enjoyed it overall. Pac's very talented. They did some stuff with Trent. They tried to get him over. What they had was they had Pac basically hit his black arrow, or it was originally the red arrow, but it's a black arrow now. So he hits it onto Trent, and that's almost a guaranteed pinfall. It's such a devastating finisher for Pac. However, Trent gets a kick out, and the fans are stunned. Pac is stunned. It's like, holy shit, they had him kick out like that. But then immediately Pac gets him, and he puts him in that brutalizer submission, and he gets him to tap out. And or not tap out, actually, he passes out. Basically, the ref stops it after the brutalizer. So the brutalizers are one of the awesome nicknames. I love the bastard Pac, and that guy's awesome. Pac is great. It was a good win for him. After the match, he cut a promo after it, and he promised to make an example out of Hangman Page at Full Gear. Next, we go to the big announcement. That's Cody Rhodes' big announcement. So he basically comes out, and what he says is he announces that if he does not defeat Chris Jericho at Full Gear, he will never challenge for the AEW World title again. I have to say that certainly beats putting your career on the line. I don't think anyone in the world would even believe that now. But so yeah, basically what it is Cody says if he loses to Jericho, he can never fight for the title again in AEW. And what I thought was, all right, here we go. Let's wait for Cody to win. But after that, he cuts a really good promo to Jericho. He talks about Jericho accused Cody of having a silver spoon in his mouth. Well, Cody says, well, it would have been hard for you when you were raised by an upper class, in the upper class, and your father was a hockey player, and he was, that was definitely true. He played in the NHL. They don't really mention that too much about Jericho, but he goes after him for that heavily. And then he talks about how Jericho needs this generation a lot more than it needs him, which is certainly true. I'm surprised he didn't bring up the midlife crisis, which is something I think the Wrestling Soup, that's where they really started. That's really been, that's had a life of its own on the internet. People assume this guy really is in a midlife crisis. And he really rips into Jericho. He calls him a dick. And he talks how Jericho insulted Dusty Rhodes, and he says he's going to beat his ass. And the Elite are going to destroy the Inner Circle, and Jericho's going to be done after the show. Yeah, it was a fantastic promo by Cody. He's doing his best to hype up him and Jericho at Full Gear. We'll see how that match delivers. When the show goes live on the air, Saturday night, it's a good night. There's a huge football game. I think that's in the afternoon, so we'll have to go head-to-head with that for college football. But, hey, they have the night to themselves. We'll see how AEW Full Gear performs on pay-per-view. But, it's definitely a hell of a promo by Cody. And even though it's not the main event, it'll technically be the second to last match because of the way they have it set up. It was a very good promo, and it was a really great way to set up the show. He had the Private Party face the Dark Order. Dark Order sucks. Don't really care much for the Dark Order. Just not a huge fan at all. Private Party with the win. So next they go to a big Chris Jericho hype video, and this was also great. I love this. This was hilarious. So they interview a whole bunch of people, including Soul Train Jones, who talks about how he knew Chris Jericho since he was 5 years old, and this guy was hilarious. And it just so happens to be there's no Soul Train Jones. He doesn't exist. It's Lonely Virgil. Virgil makes his AEW debut, and he was hilarious here. He was super entertaining. He said something that really got to me. First, he mentioned Jericho, something about the Olive Garden, which, that gives it away. Oh, it's Virgil. And he has another really good one. And then you have Jericho's aunt says he's going to kick the shit out of Cody, which was funny. He has different people here. He has Sammy Guevara, and Guevara makes a funny claim. Says Jericho's the youngest champion in AEW history. He was entertaining. Jake Hager refuses to say anything. I think they had Santana and Ortiz talk as well. So it was entertaining for a while, but it was definitely a very entertaining promo, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And it's one of those things where it's just really clever. I really loved it. I thought that was one of the best things on the show. Probably the second best thing behind the Cody promo. I thought that was great. Next, you have Emi Sakamura and Jamie Hayter against Shana and Rio. So Rio is definitely the big star. She's their women's champion. But I was wondering about Rio. She won a title from Nyla Rose. Like, when's the last time we've seen Nyla Rose on TV? It's been since that first show. Anyway, they like Jamie Hayter. They have her feuding with Brandi and Emmy, so it's her tag team partner. As for Shana, she had a good showing last week. She's from Portugal, so this was good. It went a bit too long. It was a decent tag match. I enjoyed it overall. So you have Rio getting pinned. She loses to Emi Sakura. She pins Rio cleanly, and that sets up the big match for their title match at Full Gear. So they had to win. Look, I'll be hypocrite if I don't criticize AEW. I always criticize W for always pinning the champ. You know what? Here, they're having a match in a few days. It's fine. It's a tag match. It sets it up. They had a Brandi Rhodes Awesome Kong hype video. Did not care. Who cares? Shawn Spears against Brandon Cutler. Quick squash match. I don't see what they really have much in Brandon Cutler. You still have Shawn Spears being with Tully Blanchard coming out. I think that's a waste of Tully. It just looks awkward with the hood. I'm just not into Shawn Spears. You had Joey Janela make the save for Cutler after the match, and that sets up probably a future match. They had a good John Moxley, Kenny Omega hype video. I thought it was well done. I thought they did really well here. They set up the hardcore match. What else are we going to do? It's going to be a fun, bloody match. I'm looking forward to that main event for Full Gear. And yeah, that's going on last. Jericho and Cody, I think, will probably go on second to last, depending on how the show's booked. But I just see it because the way they've hyped up Jericho and Cody, it's like almost it has to be the main event. It's been such better hype than Moxley and Omega, but technically Jericho Cody is the main event. The last match, however, is unsanctioned, so it's kind of like almost like a dark match. I don't know. UFC used to have it all the time. They'd have the title match and they'd have some random fight after, but they stopped doing it several years ago. But it always was the dumbest thing. Anyway, main event. We have Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara against Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Very good matchup here. I enjoyed it overall. It was good. However, what happened after it blew it away. What happens is you had Sammy Guevara and Jericho get the win here. And after the match, it's a melee. It's basically the Inner Circle, which is Jericho, Sammy, Ortiz, Santana, and Jake Hager, against the Elites, which is Cody, Young Bucks, Matt and Nick, and Kenny. So it's a huge melee, it's a huge brawl, and of course the Hangman Page also part of the Elite. It's craziness. It's a battle, and it goes nuts. They fight up the ramp, and Nick Jackson, I believe, does a big spot from the Titantron. They continue to fight, and it's just insane. And it's a huge brawl, and it's a great way to end the show. It's a great way to hype up Full Gear. So that's how AEW Dynamite went off, and we are officially headed Saturday to their pay-per-view, Full Gear, from Baltimore, Maryland. Hopefully Full Gear is a good show, and this was definitely a very good go-home show for Full Gear.